Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now.
Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Purple Mortgage Guys, coming at you midweek, coming out of a bye. Don't have a game to talk about, so we were going to talk this episode a lot about some thoughts on where the season's at as a whole, maybe give out some awards for where we think players are going to finish and teams are going to finish throughout this year, and just talk a little bit about some of the teams that are hot right now and some that are not starting off on the right track. So we want to encourage anyone that's listening, put some comments, ask us questions in the YouTube, Facebook, any of the social media platforms. We'd love to answer those on our next show as well. So whatever you want to know, throw it in the comments. We'd love to address that. So we're going to jump right in to a little segment we call Lock or Float. And it might sound a little confusing, but if you're in the mortgage business, it makes a lot of sense. So locking it in is the team is going to continue on that same trajectory, good or bad. Floating means we're going to hope for things to turn around. Maybe they started off really hot and they'll come back to earth, or they started off struggling and maybe they improve here at the end of the year. So the first team that comes to mind, Tanner, is definitely the Green Bay Packers. And they've started off rough, under 500 right now as we record this episode. Tanner, what do you think? Lock it in. That is the Packers, or float and they're going to turn things around?
So my mind says that I should lock this, and that this isn't going to change, because I feel like most people are saying this is who the Packers are. It's not going to get better. But my heart says that I need to float this because they still have Aaron Rodgers. And I feel like we've seen this story before. And until that changes for a full season where they have a healthy Rodgers, I'm going to leave this as is. I do think they're going to go to Buffalo next week and play a competitive game, but I do see them finishing out the remaining sector of their schedule here competitively, and probably a fringe playoff team. So I'm gonna float this one.
Goose, what do you think about the Seattle Seahawks, currently in first place in the NFC West? Geno Smith has really done well and stepped up. They're a competitive team. I don't think any of us predicted them to be talking playoffs, but are they the real deal? Would you lock that in, or would you float on them?
This one's a little tricky for me because I'm going to end up going with float. Not because I don't think they're a better team than we all think, but I think they're in a tough conference. I think they finish at least third in their conference, but I think they play competitive football. I think all their games are going to be close this year. I think they're still going to exceed expectations, but I don't think they can stay on the path that they're on now.
I would agree. Tanner, I'm going to throw a name at you. The New York Giants, very intriguing team, one-loss team. Right now they would be a wild card because they're in the same division as Philadelphia. What do you think on them? Lock or float?
I'm going to float this one too, actually. 6-1, excellent start. But when you look at them on paper, these are all coaching wins. I don't know if that continues going forward. It just like they are playing some really good football, but it doesn't seem like that's something that's going to be able to stay consistent throughout the remainder of the season. They got some tough games. They play in arguably the toughest division in the league this year, and their schedule isn't getting any easier. So I'm gonna stick with the float on this one.
So far, we've got 3 floats, so we're not real confident on these teams finishing out the season how they started. Goose, I'm going to tee one up here for you. The Philadelphia Eagles, are they a float and they come back to earth, or are they locked in as potentially the 1 seed in the NFC?
I hate to say it because the last place I want to play is in Philadelphia in the playoffs, probably more so than in Lambeau. And but I just think that they've looked like the best team, and clear cut in the NFC, and then I think they can compete in the AFC. So I'm locking them in. I think the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team in the NFC.
I would agree. They look tough. We're going to hit on the Cardinals just because we're playing them this week. They've been middle of the road. They started off really hot last year. They've struggled to end the 2021 campaign and then into 2022. They're around 500 right now. Do you see them as a lock it in? That's who they are, or float? And do you think they're going to either bottom out, or are they going to turn it around and be in playoff contention? Tanner, what do you think there?
I'm gonna float this one too. I'm probably gonna eat my words on this because I do think they're gonna give the Vikings a run for their money on Sunday. But this is a very inconsistent team, and I think Kyler Murray is arguably the most inconsistent QB in the league. You can have one really hot week, and the next he'll throw 3-4 picks if you rattle him. So I do think they're going to finish on the lower half of their division, and I'm gonna float this one too.
All right. Then the last
I'd argue then that you are locking them, Tanner, because they're at 3-4 right now. I think you think that they're going to continue the path of 3-4 football.
So, well,
unless you think they're going to be even worse than
are they an
3-9
team at the end of the year, Tanner?
Yeah, I'd say 7 or 8 wins probably. I feel like
lock that sucker in, says Tanner.
Okay, we're gonna lock that one then.
All right, last one. We all are curious what you guys both give us an opinion here. The Minnesota Vikings, are they a 2, 3, 4 loss team in the NFC? 2 seed potentially, or is that a mirage and they come back to earth? Are you locking or floating on the purple right now?
I got to stay strong. Last episode, I predicted them finishing as the 2 seed, so I can't waver from that. And I think as we did this exercise, we're floating on everyone. No one seems like they are grasping who they are. Besides,
that's how the NFL has been this year, though.
Yeah,
look how many teams are 3-4 and 4-3 right now.
Which makes me feel better about not feeling great about the Vikings being 5-1. So I'm locking them in. They are who we thought they were. They're finishing as a 2 seed.
Lock it in, says Goose. Tanner, you locking or floating?
Yeah, I got to be careful how I answer this now because I do think that they are going to make the playoffs and probably win their division. So you could take that as a lock. But I also want to say float because I don't see them continuing a trend where they go on these massive 4-game win streaks to end the year. I do think it's going to be more of like an 11-6 finish, probably 12-5. So I'd say float, I guess.
I'll break the tie here and I'll say float as well. I just think there's too many unanswered questions and too many wins that came against teams that maybe weren't great or weren't starting their starting QB. So we're going to float. So just to recap our little six pack here of picks, we're locking in on the Eagles and Cardinals, and we're going to float on the Vikings, Packers, Seahawks, and Giants. So there you have it. First ever lock and float. We'll see if it makes sense, and we might do it again sometime. So moving along, we wanted to get to today just some predictions for the rest of the year. We do our bold predictions typically on Fridays, but we wanted to throw out some season-long predictions that we can keep an eye on for the next several weeks. So one NFL as a whole, and then one specifically for the Vikings. And Tanner, I'm going to start with you on the Vikings prediction for the rest of the year.
I'm going to say, I don't know if this is a bold prediction or not, but Kirk Cousins statistically is going to finish the year his worst statistical season of his career. But this is the farthest he's going to go when it comes to finishing the season. So I feel good about them making probably a 3 or 4 seed, having a home playoff game, winning that first round, and then probably playing a pretty inconsistent team as well in the second round. And I feel like we have enough pieces, enough talent put together throughout the roster to stay competitive and probably get a bid, hopefully, to the NFC Championship. So
you're saying we have to clarify this. So it's going to be NFC Championship, but lowest passer rating of his career, or what's our statistic?
In all categories. That's kind of tough to say because they added a game last year, but I'm going to say when it comes across the board, his touchdown interception ratio is probably going to be the lowest of his career. Passing yards probably going to be
game
because we haven't been running the ball as much, but yeah, I'll say QB rating maybe as well.
Wow. Okay. That is bold. Goose, what do you got?
I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of Delvin having a big turnaround second half of the season. So he is at right now, he's got 450 yards rushing, and he's got 80 yards receiving, so he's at 530 yards. I'm trying to think of how I want to formulate this. I'm going to say he ends up with.
Is he top 3 in the league in rushing to finish the year? I think what is he, like 10 right now? Right around there, maybe
Right around there.
6.
I know the
Well-
answers now because I got burned last week. So
I'm going to go. Delvin Cook has over 1,750 all-purpose yards to end the season.
to end the season,
Yeah,
wow.
1,700.
they're
I'm
getting
just gonna-
involved.
I'm going to make it easy. KOC is the coach of the year.
KOC.
No, he's up against Dable in New York potentially, but we're floating on them, so it all works together. KOC. And then we've got one prediction in the NFL as a whole. So this could be anything from the Packers winning 3 games for the year to you name it. So Tanner, what do you got for us there?
I'm going to say the San Francisco 49ers are only going to lose one more game in the regular season and finish the year as a 2 seed.
Wow.
Okay.
I like their schedule going forward. I think it looks incredibly favorable. And yeah, I'm going to go with that.
Okay. Goose, what do you got?
I like that one, Tanner. I'm gonna say the Bills don't lose a game for the rest of the year, which would include them beating the Vikings.
So you're talking regular season, or they're going to win the Super Bowl?
Regular season, they're gonna end 16-1.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, actually, they got a pretty favorable schedule too. That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm going to go out and say the Packers are going to finish 3rd in the NFC North.
Wow.
Yeah, you're sticking with that, aren't you?
I told
like
Tanner this off the record before the season started, and he thought I was crazy. Although I did think
Before the
Detroit
season
was
even
going to
started?
be. I thought Detroit
Yeah.
was going to take a step forward, so I was pretty far
Wow.
off of that one. But
He did say that.
I like it.
well, we'll check back in those probably around the first of the year and see how off or on we were with some of that stuff. So, other thing we wanted to hit on real quick today would be anything, any awards that we wanted to give out prematurely for the end of the year. So this would be MVP, Coach of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. So, Tanner, I'm going to start with you. Way too early, but based on what we know now and what we think is going to happen, who is your MVP for 2022?
I don't know if this feels unanimous or not. I know we didn't talk about this at all beforehand, so I'm curious to see what you guys say as well. But I feel like it's unanimously Josh Allen right now, I guess, as the MVP, playing on the best team in the league and putting up consistently pretty big numbers every single week. So I'm going to say Josh Allen is going to be this year's MVP.
Goose?
I would never argue that. I'm kind of in between Hurts right now and Mahomes, with Mahomes losing Tyreek and still maintaining the same level of competition, and then Jalen Hurts also. Some people like them going into the year, but they didn't picture undefeated. I feel like that always gets some weight in an MVP, is kind of who boosted their team up the most. I'll go Pat Mahomes.
You're kind of hedging your bets there because you're saying the Bills are going to finish undefeated. And if that happens, there's no way that Josh Allen's not the MVP. But then you also open it up for Mahomes. So I like what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I lean Josh Allen as well, but I could certainly see if Hurts stays healthy and the Eagles do well, him taking it home as well. So I'll just go Jalen Hurts, just so we've got some different names on the board there. So
I'm banking on like Josh Allen winning Offensive Player of the Year, but maybe not winning MVP because their defense is really stout and they have Diggs and they have Gabe Davis. And I think he maybe loses a little credit because their overall team is so good.
All right. Who is the Coach of the Year? You already know mine, so we'll skip mine. I've got KOC penciled in there. So what do you guys got?
I'm gonna go with Brian Dable, and this also, I guess. Well, I shouldn't say. I guess it feels unanimous, but to me, like going into the season, I felt like the Giants were actually going to be like a bottom feeder in the league, one of the worst teams in the league, and they've already doubled their win total halfway through the year for what I
What
thought
if
their
they
total.
finish like 10-7, 9-6? Do you still feel that way?
No, I would. Well, no, he probably would win. He'd still be a candidate at that point, but I don't think he would be the
Right.
favorite to win at that point. But through 7 weeks, I would say Brian Dable is definitely the favorite. The
He's
Giants just
definitely the leader in the clubhouse right now.
on paper they don't look like the most talented team in the league, and they are still 6-1 and finding a way to win games. So that's props to coaching.
Nice.
I think this might be the most difficult year to predict this. You see all the young coaches, like if the Dolphins get back on track, Mike McDaniel to take them over. We haven't talked about Nick Sirianni yet, which is the only undefeated team left in football. Brian Dabble has been amazing. Robert Saleh with the Jets is 5-2. There's a lot of young. Pete Carroll resurrecting the Seahawks when no one really gave them a chance. So you get like 10 down the list, and you're talking about maybe the best coach in the NFL with Andy Reid is really not even like in the conversation, which is pretty crazy. So I'm gonna go with the low hanging fruit and say Nick Sirianni, undefeated. I think they're gonna finish strong, and I think he wins it off of that.
All right. Then we've got rookie of the year. What do you guys got there? Goose, I'll start with you.
Well, we almost talked about this last week, and I had Brees written down, so I'm glad we postponed that. I feel like Kenneth Walker is the low-hanging fruit here. I'm gonna go Aiden Hutchinson. I think they're gonna be down all season, and he's gonna be pass rushing all season, and he's gonna end with a pretty impressive sack number.
Yeah, that's fair, I guess. Defensive rookie of the year candidate for sure. I don't know about like overall rookie, but
What do you got there, Tanner?
So, rest in peace, the poor Brees Hall who tore his ACL on Sunday. That probably would have been my favorite for sure. But right now, I was hoping you weren't going to take him, and I'm glad you didn't. So I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker. Rashad Penny's out for the year. I think Kenneth Walker is going to get a lot of touches to finish the year. He's going to be my pick, but I would not be surprised if Dameon Pierce is up there as well. He's been pretty consistent through 7 weeks.
I would jump on with the Kenneth Walker bandwagon here as well. I just think he's putting up a lot of yards, and if Seattle keeps winning, that's gonna be a big part of it. So I'll side with Tanner on that one. Last one we've got is the NFL Comeback Player of the Year, and I'm gonna start here with Tanner on this one.
So I don't know if my pick for this is actually like a legit candidate, because I don't think most of these players that win this award is somebody that was hurt last year, tore an ACL or something crazy, and then came back and had a spectacular year. But it has to be Saquon Barkley. This also feels like fairly unanimous for me, I guess, just because he's been so disappointing for the most part since he was drafted. And I think he is like top 2 or 3 in the league in rushing through 7 games this year. So I'm going to say if he continues that going forward and stays consistent, he is going to be the favorite and the winner in that category.
Nice. Goose?
Yeah, I think that's hard to argue. Banking on the future and the way we all reacted last week, I'm going Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to have a insanely good second half of the season.
Yeah.
And win the NFL Comeback Player of the Year.
I'm going to go with Geno Smith. I know it's a little bit out of the box, but I just feel like we're going to float on the Giants. I think they're going to come back to earth. Probably like Saquon's going to have to be a lot quieter than he is now if that happens. Still not sure if McCaffrey's going to stay healthy. Could totally see that happening if he does stay healthy. But I'll go with Geno just for what the Seahawks are doing. So that's interesting because I think a lot of those scenarios could play out and we could be dead wrong on all of them as well. So it'll be exciting to watch the next few months and see how that all unfolds. So any closing thoughts, guys, on the season as a whole, what we're going to see going forward?
Goose, me and Goose have talked about this privately a couple times already, but the NFL is so weird this year. It just doesn't feel like a season that we've seen anything like in the past. There's just a lot of really crappy teams that are doing really well, and a lot of good teams that are doing horribly. Buccaneers and the Packers, teams that you like to see in the playoffs, because everybody likes to see a Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, somebody that feels like a villain. You still want to see them in the playoffs, but you want to see them lose when it matters the most. So I'm looking forward to seeing those two guys, I guess, the rest of the year, and see if they have the ability to turn things around and get their team to the dance.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot, and I agree, but I'm opposite. I love to see the new team crack into the playoffs. The one thing I worry about is that the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, maybe the 49ers just plow through the first couple rounds, and it's not competitive because there's some Cinderella teams in the big game. So I would love to see as many new teams as possible and see it be competitive. And I think there's only really 3 teams in the NFL this year between the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Eagles that I think look dominant. So hopefully we even out a little bit, because I don't want to see those 3 teams just run through the playoffs.
Mine is specific to Minnesota, but I want to see a score 40, 45 points a game a couple times and just know that we have the capability of doing it.
Yeah.
We all are a little bit worried. We're a little worried about the defense, but if we put up points, it's a lot less of a concern and it makes it a lot easier on the defense. So like the third quarter has always been an issue so far this season. And there's a lot of individual little statistics that I think they can improve on. So that's mine. Like, just put up points and let's see the offense start clicking. All right, guys, there we got it. Another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. We're going to get back to work. If you guys have any home loan related questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll come back to you again on Friday, previewing the Cardinals game for this coming weekend. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks.